Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome to Campfire Discussions. As you can tell by the title, today we're going to be talking about the nuclear family and how we can keep it going in the modern world. So I want to start off by discussing what I'm going to be doing with my project. So we decided that I'm going to start a project from start to finish throughout the next several shows, so you guys can see the beginning all the way to the end, what I do, how I do it. So I have two pieces of wood here because I have two different signs I want to make you guys. The first one, the little guy, is going to say, "Welcome to our beautiful chaos." And then the big one is going to say family, and then it'll have like family in parentheses. It'll say it's a noun, and it'll say the people you live for, laugh with, love most, and one of life's greatest blessings. And they're both going to be like a rustic farmhouse style. So what I did to start, which I couldn't do here in the studio, was I'll take like a rough board. I don't like to use stuff that I buy at the store, so I get like boards from like pallets, anything you can think of. And I'll take my little sanding block, and the sanding block, just to smooth out the edges, and I like to kind of round off the ends. And then you want to take, once that's done, you get all the dust off, you wipe it off, and then you want to take something, it's an acrylic coating, and this one's a clear matte finish, and I know it's going to be hard to see in the camera. This one is Krylon brand, and I spray it. So what that does, if you spray it first before you do your painting, which I hadn't been doing with the other boards because I wasn't wanting to stink up the studio, and today I thought, oh wait, I can do that beforehand. So by doing that, you're creating a smoother surface. It still is wood, obviously, but it gives you a little bit less porous so that you don't have to put quite so much paint on. It does help a lot. So those are the two things I couldn't do in front of you because I would mess up the studio and Joel would never forgive me. But that's how I'm going to start this project. So in a little bit I'll start painting. But first I wanted to bring a special guest on. She got to you got to get a little sneak peek of her last night on the boys show. And I promised to bring her on tonight for a few minutes. So come on in, girly. This is Riley. She's going to come sit over here. This is our daughter, Riley. And she is pretty awesome. So, Riley, you want to say anything to everybody?
You ask questions.
Oh, I have to ask questions. Okay, interesting. So, how old are you? Can you say it?
9.
What's your favorite subject in school? Art. Yeah, that was mine too, obviously. You're following in mommy's footsteps. What do you want to do when you grow up?
Artist.
You want to be an artist? What else do you want to do? Because I think there's a couple things you want to do.
Probably be the first girl president.
First girl president. Yes, I love it. That would be awesome. Well, what do you think of your family? You have a mommy and a daddy?
5 million trillion gazillion out of 10.
Oh, that's a high number. We're shooting for the stars here, people. So you love your family? Okay, cool. Well, you want to sit with me a little bit while I talk about a few things, and then I'll send you on your way?
Ask me so many freaking questions.
Not yet. Okay, so when I talk about the nuclear family, not everybody knows what that means. It comes from 1920s, and this is the only few definitions I'll give you because I'm really boring when I do definitions, unlike the boys. But it comes from the 1920s, and the Oxford English Dictionary cites Bronislaw Malinowski, and I totally messed up that name, as the coiner of the term. It's also known as elementary family, and it's a group of people who are united by ties of partnership and parenthood, and consisting of a pair of adults and their socially recognized children. So usually the nuclear family is a married couple with their kids. And a lot of times the nuclear family is a lot less common these days. There's a lot of families out there that are broken. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I mean, that happens, that's life. But keeping the nuclear family together, keeping your family together in this world today is proving to be more difficult than it used to be, I think. I think it's, we don't put as much emphasis on it that we should. It seems to be that marriage isn't as much of a commitment these days as it used to be. And people might be going into it thinking, well, if I don't like it, I can get out. And I know my personal opinion, and our motto when Joel and I got married was, this is it, this is the end, and if we come to problems, then we will solve them. We do not run away. So, what do you think, Riley, about having a strong family in our world today? You don't know?
Really cool.
It's really cool. Do a lot of your friends have families that are still together?
Chance doesn't.
Oh, don't say names.
Oh. But I know a lot of my friends' parents are watching.
Are they?
Yeah, and their kids might be watching too.
Oh, that's cool.
Can I
So
just
say hi to your friends, but don't say names. Just say hi to them.
My best friend's name?
Nope. But you can say hi. Say hi, best friend. You can say hi to her.
Hi, Lena, if you're there. And also, hi, best friend, if you definitely know me, because I saw you today at school like a million times. You were on the tire swing, but then I sang, and then you...
Give me a hug and go on. Oh, I love you, but you gotta go, honey. I gotta talk about my stuff.
Wait. You just said a gazillion out of 10.
5 million gazillion out of 10.
How'd you do that?
Okay, go on.
How'd you do that?
Say bye to Riley.
I don't know. How'd you do that?
Go on.
I don't know. How'd you do that? Say.
Okay, say bye.
Say how you did that.
Riley, go. I gotta continue with the show. Say bye.
I don't know. Talk.
Bye, Riley.
I don't know. Talk for real.
Okay, anyways, so that was Riley. Normally we wouldn't bring her on here, but she was dying to be on here, and I know she wants to do her own little show, so we got to give her some practice before that happens. Obviously, you can see kids aren't as easy to train when it comes to being on the show and doing the right thing, but she's an amazing kid, and we are very blessed with her. She is incredible. So one of the main things I wanted to talk about today is the nuclear family in the modern world, which means how do we keep our families together when we're being told that it's not important, when we're being told that it's okay to not try harder. Everything in this world seems to be like, if it doesn't feel good, you move on. If it gets hard, you quit. And it feels like it's getting more and more like that. And I'd love to see people go into marriage with that commitment of, okay, this is it. I don't have an out. We got to work through it. Now, I'm not talking about like if you're in those situations that are really bad, and you know what I'm talking about. If you're in a situation where you're being abused or you're mistreated in a terrible way, or things of that nature. I'm not saying that we're supposed to just stay there. No, obviously not. But if you're having financial difficulties or hardships in your marriage, I'd love to see more people try to work through it, because I know for me, Joel and I have been through a lot. He deployed overseas in the very beginning of our marriage, and he was gone for 1.5 years, and I have a very, very serious illness that we never know what's going to happen to me. I could wake up tomorrow with an organ failure. We have a lot of stress. We've been through failures. We've been through losses. We've been through financial to the lowest of low, and we've been through pretty much anything you could think of. But we're committed to each other, and every time we go through something like that and come out the other side, we're stronger with our relationship with God, we're stronger with each other, and it builds that deeper intimacy, that deeper relationship that you can't get unless you do go through trials and tribulations together. there, you know, my biggest thing is, I tell this to everybody too, like especially people that ask me how we keep it going. I can't even explain what it's like to have somebody that you know you can trust no matter what, that you've been through the darkest of the dark and they didn't leave. They stuck with you. It's a security like no other. So I'm going to show you a little bit of some painting stuff and then get back to what I'm talking about, but I'm going to try to do both at the same time if it's possible. I try to be a multitasker, but that doesn't always work for me, so we'll see how it goes. But so I think I'm going to start with the little one. So what I'm going to do is at the top here, I'm going to put the welcome to our in like smaller all capital like print type of font, and then down here the beautiful chaos is going to be bigger and a different color and in more of a cursive type font. And by doing different fonts and different sizes and different colors, it brings more dimension to what you're doing. My thing, what I always start with when I'm doing letters is sometimes I'll pencil it out, but I haven't done that in years. I only do that if it's a new font, something I've never done before. So I'll take like a small brush and I'll start by writing out in the font I like the letters of the words, and I'll do the first row first, and then I'll go through and do all the layers of that row, the shadowing of that row before I move on, because I've learned that if I try to do the first layer of everything, then go back and do the second layer, I usually mess up the bottom. So that's a little pro tip there. So while I get started on this, I was going to talk about some things we're dealing with in our world today when it comes to our family life, our children. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is I was watching Matt Walsh the other day, and I don't know how many of you know who that is, but he's a conservative commentator type guy. He talks a lot about politics. He's written some children's books. There's like a community, the trans community is kind of upset with him right now because he wrote a book about for children about you can't be I don't remember what animal it was, but it was something like you can't be this animal because you're human, and they took it and ran with it and twisted it and made him out to be this terrible guy. But he is really, I really do like him a lot. Obviously you can't agree with everything everybody says, but I do agree with him in a lot of ways. And the other day he was talking about, and yes, I have a habit of doing that with my paintbrush, so don't do that, it's just me. He was talking about TikTok and how our teachers are changing. And I grew up with teachers in my family. Both my parents were teachers. My dad was a dean for a while and then went back to teaching. So he's taught some higher levels. My mom was an elementary school teacher for forever. She just recently retired a couple years ago. And oh, that's cool. I should start doing that on the boys show. Anyways, it was a lot different when she was a teacher, and even just in the 2 years that she retired to now, it's very different. She tells me a lot of how grateful she is that she's done. It started getting dangerous for her. I mean, kids were getting rough and wild and scary, and also her rights to teach the way she wanted to were being taken away slowly. I mean, there was a time when you would pray or you would say the pledge and do all these things, and they don't allow that anymore in most schools. I know that she was getting increasingly concerned about violence in school, and she was an elementary school teacher, so that says a lot of the way our schools are going. But what Matt Walsh was talking about was there was a bunch of these TikTok videos of these preschool teachers that were non-binary, that were on TikTok asking advice from other people on how to communicate their non-binary gender with these preschoolers. And to me, I sat there watching it with my my jaw just completely open, in shock. And as they were speaking, they were talking about, hi, I'm so and so, and I'm non-binary, and this is my name, and I just got a job as a preschool teacher, and I'm not sure what to do. Do I talk to my preschoolers about this? Do I let them call me by the wrong gender? Or do I explain to them that I'm a them and a they, and that what that means, and how they can be that way too, and they might be that way too? And then there was another one who was saying that her school board told her that she couldn't use the plural, the them they pronouns, because in her preschool, mind you, these were all preschool teachers, because it confused the children when teaching them their pronouns, and how singular versus plural, and how a person can be plural. And they told her, or I don't know what to say about that, because I'm not sure how to say it. I'll say her because I think she looked like a her. That they were asking about how to find a lawyer to sue the school district for not allowing them to use the they them pronouns, teaching preschoolers. And the thing that worried me was, my child is in public school. We live in a very liberal state, which means that there's a lot of things in our state that our family as Christians don't necessarily agree with. A lot of times we don't really have to worry much about it, because we talk to our daughter. We have conversations every night. We pray all the time about the state of our school system, the state of things, and we talk to her. She's a very strong individual. She knows who she is, which is wonderful, but that doesn't mean that these things don't have influence on our children. I'm noticing it in friends and people that we know, that our kids, as they get older, are being taught things in school where they're coming home with a crisis of identity. And it's not the crisis of identity that we grew up with, as your hormones are changing and things are happening, that, you have the normal, or the general crises that we all go through as we're getting older. It's the more of, well, there's so many things I could be. Am I non-binary? Am I, and I don't even know all the names for it. Am I transgender? Am I bisexual? Am I gay? And all these things, pangender, and all these things that they're asking, they're coming home asking, and you have to figure out, why are they asking that? Because they're being taught it in school, that these are things that our kids, whose brains aren't fully developed, they don't even know they don't even know how to do proper hygiene yet, and they're being tasked with having to figure out who they are as a gender and sexuality and all these things that are really inappropriate for children. And that's why I wanted to talk about this tonight, because it's scary. How do we keep our kids, as a Christian family, how do we keep our daughter strong in her faith while continuing to go to public school and hearing all these things that are coming at them so much? And it's scary. I mean, I'm tempted to pull her out of public school eventually, but then what are our options? She's not a homeschooler. She can't do it. So then we have private school, right? Well, private school is expensive. So then what do we do? And I know there's a lot of families out there with this same predicament of, how do we make sure our child is getting actual education without indoctrination? And that really is what it is. When you're pushing your beliefs on children, and it has nothing to do with learning what they need to learn in school, but it has to do with your opinions or your belief system, and you're pushing it on them and confusing them even further, that's not okay. That's indoctrination. And I don't know if you've noticed over the last few decades, but as the higher up you go in education, it seems the more and more the children and young adults are being taught only one side of beliefs. And if you try, I mean, God forbid, you tell them that there's another side to things, that's not technically the case, and that there's a different belief system, you're called out for all kinds of things. I'm going to read a couple questions, and then I promise I'm going to start painting. I just got into a little bit of a tangent there. I apologize. What is non-binary? Kindergartners and preschoolers don't understand these genders' identity and that they are teaching at school. From what I understand, non-binary means that they don't, what is the word I'm looking for? They don't identify as male or female. So because of that, they require everybody to use plural pronouns like they and them, and it can be really confusing for little kids. I'm not going to get into the whole rabbit hole of what else that can cause, and I'm not going, I like I've said, I believe that as Christians we're put here to love people no matter what, but there is a truth and the untruth, and so there's truth and not truth, and a lot of these things coming up today that are popular, that are like the trend to be, is a mental illness, and this mental illness is being highlighted as somebody's truth. Remember last week we talked about his truth, her truth, your truth, instead of the truth. Well, this is part of that, and it really is. It gets to be very confusing. And yes, preschoolers and kindergartners, how are they supposed to understand that, first of all? Second of all, it's not their job to make you feel good or to encourage your belief system. It's their job to come there and be taught their reading, writing, arithmetic, science, history that's not altered. That's what they're there for. They're not there to further your belief system or learn your belief system or make you feel better about yourself. And especially our little tiny ones, like they don't even have the capacity to know the difference. So when a teacher's telling them this stuff, they're taking it in as if it's the truth. It's what they're supposed to be taught. They're too young to even know the difference, and that is just, it's insane. So there was another question on here, or comment. These teachers breaking these boundaries and telling children about these adult topics and situations and complex adult emotions is very troubling, and these boundaries with children's minds are being abused. Absolutely. And that's absolutely it. I mean, these are adult problems, adult emotions, adult identities, adult issues that are being brought into our children's lives. And you got to think, a teacher, when a child is being taught by their teacher, that is a trusted adult. That is someone they are told to listen to, that they are to learn from. And so when these teachers take advantage of that position and take advantage of the fact that they're a trusted adult and use that time to further their belief system and to try to cause these children to believe what they believe, that is abuse. Absolutely 100%, that is abuse. The actual definition of non-binary is: some people don't identify with any gender. Some people's gender changes over time. People whose gender is not male or female use many different terms to describe themselves, with non-binary being one of the most common. I'd really like to know what you guys think of that. Some people's gender changes over time. That was a Google definition. I would love to hear some comments on what you guys think of that definition and the fact that that is even a thing. I'm confused, and maybe someone can tell me. I mean, I'm here to learn, y'all, and here to talk about things, but I'm really confused as to how that works. Somebody said, telling children these things and forcing them to come up with answers for their gender identity is completely psychological abuse and trampling their personal boundaries. Yeah, absolutely. And someone else said, glad this topic's coming up. Preach it. 100% abuse of power. Yeah. it's just mind-blowing to me that this is happening to our kids. And I mean there's several of us that kind of guessed it. Once you start allowing this, it's a snowball, and it's snowballing into effect. And now we're facing, these teachers are telling our kids they can be any gender under the sun. There's 1,000 genders now, and there's all these sexualities, and there's all these things that they're trying to get them to think about before they even know their own skills. I mean, these kids are not capable of knowing this. And now you've got parents that are teaching their children, oh, well, you like to play basketball, Sally? Well, maybe you're a boy. Have you thought about it that you're a boy? I've seen these videos of these parents literally teaching their children that they're trans because they might like something that boys like. And then you go into the trans athletes taking over women's sports. I mean, gosh, it's everywhere. It's all over the place, you guys. I'm going to start painting. Wonder how they would feel if the shoe was flopped. Someone decided to teach their kids about Christ and his teachings. Yeah, I mean, we know how they feel because we've been pushed out of all this stuff, remember? I mean, you talk about, there's been teachers that have been fired or criminally charged for talking about Jesus in school. If you watch the God's Not Dead movies, there's one of them where the teacher literally was helping a student. The student was upset. She was going through a really hard time, and she asked the teacher, how do you get through hard things in life? And she says, my relationship with God. And because of that, she was put through the ringer, man. And that happens. It really does happen. So we do know how they feel because they've shown us how they feel. A good question in response to those things. Oh, I'm being instructed by my producer. Oh, a good question in response to if your kids come to you and are talking about this stuff is ask them where you learned it, how did you learn it, how do we respond to the actions as it's an attack on the family values today? I'm going to get to that. The definition of non-binary on Google are really redundant and hypocritical. Okay, so how do we come back with, how do we fight this, right? So I know we're a couple minutes away from break, so I'll start with a little bit and then we'll come back. But my first line of defense is, as parents, we are in charge of our children, right? We cannot allow, we need to know what's going on in the schools. We need to be involved. We need to be asking our kids every day, what did you learn today? What did you guys talk about? Was there anything that happened at school that was confusing? Or, was there anything that happened at school that you think goes against what you've been taught at home? Those are questions I ask my daughter almost every day. I probably should be doing it every day. I'd probably do it a few times a week. And she's, I'm sure, exhausted from it, but she knows why I ask. Also, the reason Riley knows why I ask is because we've spent a lot of time at home before she even entered school talking about not necessarily non-binary and transgender things, but talking about the fact that our beliefs are different than what the world tends to try to push on people. And so our relationship with God is number one. And we will follow the Bible and what God wants of us. But you are going to face questions. You're going to face things in this world that aren't going to make sense to you. But what I want you to do is to be able to come to mom and dad and talk to us about it if you have questions. We're not going to be upset with you for asking these questions. We're not going to, you're not going to get in trouble. Just come to us and talk to us. Tell us what's going on. Be involved in your kids' lives. And that is like the number one defense, is being involved, making them aware that these things can happen, making them aware that the world today is different and we have to be vigilant, which means we have to start the conversation before the conversation gets to them. Yes, I am going to paint. I'm sorry, you guys. I got stuck on what I was doing. So it's time to take a break. What I'm going to do while we're at break is I'm going to start writing the first letters, and then I'll show you when you come back. And then send in your comments. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 different colors. The first color is going to be black. the first line is going to be black. So send in what you want me to do the second, the beautiful chaos, what colors you want for that. And we'll go to break, and then we'll continue on, you guys. So send in questions, comments, like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Stick around, and we will be back. Hi everybody, I'm Brandy with Backwards Wives, and this is a Backwards Minute. The moments you think you can't are opportunities to prove that you can. When you see something that's in your way that's telling you can't do it, look for a way that you can do it. A good example in my life would be with my illness. I have lupus, which is a pretty severe illness. It could mean a lot of things. It could be fatal. I've been told my whole life I can't do things. When I was a kid, they told me I would never make it to my teenage years. Once I made it to my teenage years, they told me I wouldn't make it out of my teenage years without being in a wheelchair permanently. As an adult, I was told that I'm lucky to be alive, I'm lucky to be walking. I'm still walking with a cane, but I'm still walking. I found ways to show the world that even though you're telling me I can't do this, I'm going to show you that I can. A lot of people would say that somebody in my position and my condition wouldn't be able to do work, which I don't work in a job that pays me, but I am a president of a nonprofit organization. I work every day. I've found ways to take what I'm told I can't do and turn it into I'm going to show you that I can. And I think that's something super cool that I've been able to do because I had the right support system in my life. I have God as my foundation, who's always been there to be my cheerleader, basically. And I found the right people to surround myself with, people that will support me in everything I do. They cheer me on, and they don't wrap my life in negative. They wrap my life in positive. And the more positivity you have around you, the more love you have around you, the more you can do. If you think of your world as a big obstacle, then it's going to be a big obstacle. If you think of your world as open doors, then there will be open doors. It's all about what you perceive it as and what you're going to look at it as. And that's, I think, the most important thing is that you can change your world with your perception of it. You can change how you react to things. And that's that. Thanks for taking a minute. We'll see you next time. and then we can do shadows next week. What? Oh, okay. I need to repeat what I said. So, I'm gonna try to get this top line, the basics done with it, and then we'll go down to the second line just so I can show you. And then next week, since it'll have a whole week to dry in between, then we'll do the shadows. So that way we can kind of get a good visual on what we're doing here. So I've already got the little scratch outline of the words. You can't really, it's kind of hard to see. You see that? And now you can see how I'm going back over it and thickening it up after I got the basic words in there. And with your fonts, there's different ways you can do this. I like to do thick areas and thin areas to give it more dimension. And like I said, I like to use lots of different fonts in my signs. I've learned a lot over the years. I've got to get some new paint brushes before next week to do my shadowing, because some of my paint brushes are getting kind of old. So I'm hoping that I can get that accomplished before next week. But yeah, so talking about, somebody had said we have to start the conversation before the conversation comes to them, that I said that. And then, wow, that's good, simple but powerful words. Yeah, I mean, it honestly is, we gotta be prepared. We can't keep sitting on our hands, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I don't mean to tell anyone that they're not doing a good job at all. No, but I think that as Christians, as a lot of times Christians, conservatives fall into the same group. Not always, but a lot of times we do, and we tend to sit back and be more calm, cool, collected, and wait and be the bigger person, turn the other cheek. And that, I'm not saying not to do that, but I am saying that we are in a different time right now, and it's time to stand up, and it's time to fight for what we believe in. We are not evil because we love God. We are not evil because we want our families to be safe, and we want our family to believe in the biblical principles. We are not evil because that is our belief system. We are not evil because we don't necessarily agree with the popularity of what's going on these days. It's okay to fight for that, and we need to remember that. And also, fighting for that is not going against what we're supposed to do. Yes, we are supposed to love everyone, and you can love everyone and still fight for what's right. Okay? You can, I like I've told you last week, I'll say many times, because my main statement I make is we can only overcome hate with love. You can't push out hate with more hate. And loving people does not mean that you fall into their delusions, or you allow them to think that how do I put this? Loving people does not mean allowing things that are wrong to be right. There is a truth, and there is a right and wrong, and it's okay to fight for those things. That's not bad. And we have to fight for our kids, because right now our kids are under attack. It is clear as day, because if they get to our children, they can control them easier. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, y'all. I'm just speaking the truth here, and the truth as I see it. Okay. Our kids are moldable. They are pliable. They are love the sinner, hate the sin. Exactly. They are easily shaped, and you want to be the one shaping them, because they're your children. They're not the government's kids. They're not the teacher's kids. They're not society's kids. They're your kids. And you have a right to fight for what kind of life you want them to live. Now we're being told that believing in a mom and dad together raising their kids is wrong. It's not. Okay. That's not a bad thing. Or like also the feminist movement. Now, I'm a feminist, but not in the traditional way that you would think. I believe women can do anything, but I also believe that women and men were created different for a reason. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and say every woman has to be a mom, because not all women are moms or can be moms. And I know as well as anyone the struggles of infertility. I know what it's like to go through that, and I also know there are women out there that aren't meant to be mothers or don't want to be mothers, and that's okay. What I'm saying is we were made different for a reason. We have some amazing strengths that men do not have, and men have some strengths that we do not have. And equality does not mean that we are the same. Equality means we have that we have the same opportunity. Okay? It doesn't mean that we have to do everything the same way or we have to do the same things. And that is the biggest thing here. So as my kind of feminism is, I believe that women are strong, women are powerful, and it is wonderful what we do. We create human beings in our bellies, okay? Nobody else can do that. A man who thinks he's a woman can't do that. Nobody else can do that except for a biological female. And that is beautiful. It's a miracle. It's amazing. And we've gotten away from understanding what our true power is. It's incredible, you guys. Think about that. Think about how amazing that is. And then tell a woman that she's not tough, because I would love to see her beat your butt. Okay? Anyways, I went off on a little tangent there. So I'll read some of these comments here. Somebody said red, white, and blue. I would do red, white, and blue. Maybe this one we can do red, white, and blue, because this one I already started with black and that would look kind of weird. So what would you guys think of maybe like the black and then like a teal? And then we can maybe outline the black and something else. Or we can outline the black and teal, whatever you guys think, because we're not doing the outlines until next week. So send in what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. Somebody else said gender identity is easy. Just look down and what do you see there? And done. Nothing to complicate there. Love the sinner, hate the sin. The truth is foundational and solid, unmoving and not flexible. It does not change based on perception. It does not change based on feelings. Discovery of the truth is subjective, but the truth is still the same no matter the approach. The only moving piece is falsity and deception. Exactly. Thank you. So yes, truth is not what society wants you to believe, because society today wants you to believe that truth is subjective, and it's not. It's not subjective. Truth is truth. Now, the way you approach it, the way you see it is subjective. Your perception can be different, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the facts. Your feelings do not change what is reality, okay? And unfortunately, our society today wants us to believe that we are, if we say something is not true, or we say, your feelings don't make that actually truth, that we are the bad guy, and we are not. And I'd love to see more people that have their firm, solid beliefs stand up and say, you know what? I'm not evil because I want my child to follow biblical principles. I'm not evil, and I'm going to fight for my country. I'm going to fight for my town. I'm going to stop sitting on my butt and sitting on my hands and waiting for someone else to do it. Stand up, man. There are lots of us that are willing to fight alongside you, but you got to start fighting, because the more we sit back and watch, the more these things are happening. And I'm telling you, we've been sitting down for too long, you guys. We've been letting things go. We've been turning the other cheek. We've been sitting back and waiting for way too long. And it's time to start standing up and fighting back and doing what's right, because our future is at stake. Our children are at stake. And I don't know about you, but I want my daughter to live a long, happy, beautiful life full of happiness and growth. And I do not want her to live in a world that is full of hate and crime and scary things, to where she doesn't want to go out into the world. I don't want her to live in fear. I want her to live in the strength that God gives her every day to go out and be amazing giving, beautiful human being that loves people. And that's who she is today. And I don't want that to change. So I and myself and my husband will fight every day to keep her in that state of mind. And that is an everyday job. We cannot sit down for one day. We cannot take a break, because we take a break, she's going to come home and say all these things that she's being told by society. And if we don't fight back, that could take over. And it's a really scary thought. I'm going to show you what I got so far. See if we can see it. Can you see that? And I don't know if you can tell in the camera angle, but there's certain parts of the letters that are like thicker and some parts that are thinner. And we'll even that out next week when we go in and do the shadows. But that's what we got so far. So now comes the fun part, because the beautiful chaos is going to be bigger, and it's going to be cursive, and there's going to be lots of lines going everywhere. So this one's really fun. I'm going to see if there's any more comments before I continue on. We might have to go a little bit longer so I can show you this. So hopefully you guys are okay with sticking with me for a little bit longer. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not a lack for words, so I have no problem continuing to chatter along. I'm just mixing a little bit of white in with my teal to thin it out a little bit and make it a little bit lighter, because I want a really big drastic color change. If your paint, I use acrylics, and if your paint is too thick, it's very, very hard to make lines straight. Somebody said my grandmother was a mom of 4. A race car driver. She was also an automotive engineer that also taught AutoCAD and CAD key, and also worked at the Army Corps of Engineers as one of the designers of dredgers, some of which are still used to this day. Well, your mom is amazing, whoever you are. Male or female, your gender doesn't define you or what you do. Even though we have obvious physical differences, if it isn't a competition between physical ability, it's all equal. I'd never tell a child you can't because. And I fully agree. I know several women that do jobs that are technically man jobs, and they're amazing at it. And I would never tell, our daughter knows she can do anything that she puts her mind to. The difference is that she can put anything she can put her mind to, but there's a difference between that and telling a little girl that because she likes to do things that maybe are more man type, that she might be a boy. God made her a girl, she's a girl, and that's who she is, and she needs to be proud of that, and I want her to be so proud of that, and proud of being a strong female, and proud of her power. And I feel like a lot of the stuff happening today is confusing our kids. It's making them depressed. Then when they're told at a tiny age, even up till teenage years, when they're told in these formidable years that they have to have some sort of identity crisis if they're normal, that they got to look into all these different identities, these genders, these sexualities, to be like everybody else, and that if they like these things and they must be that, confusing them with all this stuff is really, really harming our children. They don't need to be worrying about these things. I've always been an advocate for do not make your adult problems part of your child's world. They should not have to worry about adult problems. Our kids need to remain kids as long as they can, because once you're an adult, you don't get to go back. You don't get to relive those years. You don't get to have that time. And I believe childlike faith is amazing. The way children see everybody is amazing. We can learn from our kids every day. And why would you want to take that from them? Why would you want to take that innocence and that joy and that love for every living being away from them? When our kids become so overloaded with adult problems, that's when we start seeing hatred coming out of them, and depression coming out of them, and these major issues coming at such a young age. And then how do they manage that? Yes, I love this table. It's so much bigger than the other one. It gives me so much room, and it's my style because I'm a big time rustic person, as you can tell with all my painting stuff. I'd love to hear what everybody's thoughts are on what we're talking about tonight, because I know, with the world we're in today, making a firm statement on my beliefs, especially that the Christian beliefs that aren't popular today, unfortunately, can get me in some trouble. And I'm okay with that, because I am willing to fight for what's right. I'm willing to fight for what I believe in. I'm willing to fight for my kid. And I really would love to see more of that. I feel like I'll say it a million times, because we're seeing it happen in our town. We're seeing it happen all over the country. Complacency has gotten us to where we are. And we got to start fighting back, or we're going to keep going down this spiral, you guys. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm in the twilight zone right now. I don't know if you guys feel that way. I'd love to know if I'm the only one, but I feel like I never thought we'd be where we are today, where if you want to do the right thing, you're considered the bad guy, and if you want to do the wrong thing, it's just your truth. So do whatever makes you feel good. This do whatever makes you feel good ideology is really getting us in trouble. It's scary. I know I'm terrified at the state of our world right now, and I want to see more Christians step up. I know I talked about this last week. Our church. Now, I'm not talking about the church as in the people of God. I'm talking about the institution of church. I feel like it really needs to step up and start fighting back on these things. When you see churches saying that they are going with the ideologies of today's world instead of sticking to what the Bible has taught us, what the Bible has told us to say or do and live, it's a scary thing for me. I personally don't have a home church right now, because we're looking for one. We'd love to have a home church where we could feel comfortable and feel like we can worship with others. We still have our fellowship, guys, because when two or more come together, He is there. And I know you know that, but I'd like to repeat that as often as I can, because we've been told other things. But we need to be coming together. We need to be coming together and fighting for each other, fighting for our families, fighting for our kids. I can go over some of these pros and cons if you guys would like to hear them of the nuclear family. There are some cons, not very many, but there's some cons. Some of the things that we talk about is the nuclear family biblical. Well, I've got some verses here that say that it is. Let's see. The family is constituted by marriage, right? So the Genesis 2:20-25 talks about the pattern of marriage. Matthew 19:1-12 talks about it. Marriage is ordained by God. It must be between a man and a woman. And I know that that's a terrible thing to say in our society, but that's the truth. That is the truth. Marriage is characterized by leaving the authority structure of one's parents. So you leave your parents and you cleave to your spouse, okay? When you get married, your spouse becomes that person that you depend on, you work with, you cleave to them, which means you cling to them, you become part of them. And that in our world today now, I see a lot of young adults that are still living at home, and I'm not saying anything bad about that. But, once you get married, your spouse needs to be your number one. You got to work with them and not against them. Marriage is also our picture of the relationship between Christ and the church. Christ and the church meaning Christ and His people. And that is in Ephesians 5:22-32. Now, since I'm trying to show some of my painting, I'm not going to read those scriptures. So go back and refer to those and read about it. Parents have the primary responsibility and the God-given authority to teach their children. They're in charge of their education. We're in charge of making sure they know what's right and wrong. We are tasked with that. We are their parents. We are tasked with being there and showing them what's right and fighting for that. So yes, it sucks what's going on in our world today, but be present with your family. Be present with your children. Talk to them. Our child gets she comes to us with crazy things on a daily basis, things that she's hearing at school or hearing on TV. And she feels safe talking to us because we've had those conversations and we've been open and honest with her. And of course, you got to stay age appropriate, right? But I mean, she knows at the ripe age of 9 that she is a girl. She's always going to be a girl. That this conversation of choosing your gender is not the truth. She knows it already. And that's because, unfortunately, the world makes us bring that up a lot sooner than we should. And that makes me really sad. It really does. I like to see if there's any more comments while I'm painting. Oh, yes, there's so many. That is what they called girls who likes to play sports tomboy, not non-binary, or what these so-called parents and teachers are trying to brainwash kids these days. Don't be worried, God's got it. That's right, absolutely. And that's true. I was a tomboy. My daughter is a tomboy. 90% of her friends are boys. And I know that makes Daddy so happy. But honestly, she is such a tomboy. She loves to play rough. She loves to be out, run around outside, get in the mud. She is not a girly girl. But that doesn't make her in a gender identity crisis. And I don't, when we grew up, that wasn't a thing. At least it wasn't as rampant as it is today. That was not a thing. If you were a tomboy, cool. You were into sports. You were into things like that. That's okay. We don't have signs on the doors of restrooms at home. So why don't they do enclosed stalls, and when you walk in, you check in with a nurse at a counter on back of sink's wall, make it an aid station? What? I'm a little confused by that comment, so maybe you can give me some more context to that. Marriage is a choice, not a feeling. Absolutely. It takes sacrifice, work, effort, patience, and love, but there is nothing like it to know that you have your person by your side every day. Yes, absolutely. It is a choice. I make the choice every single day to work with my husband, to love him. Love is a choice. Love is not a feeling, you guys. We've gotten caught up in this fairy tale. You have to have that fairy tale feeling, and once that fairy tale feeling, I guess love is gone and it's time to move on. No, love is work, and it's a choice you make every single day to work with your person, to be with your person, to love your person, and work through the struggles and work through the hardships. And when you do that, I promise you, it makes you stronger. It makes you better. It makes you, there is nothing like that feeling of knowing this person has been through hell and back with me. They know everything about me, the good and the bad, and they're going to stick with me through it all. That is such a beautiful thing. I want my daughter to feel that. I want her to have that in her life. She knows the unconditional love from Jesus. She knows her love from her parents, but there is nothing like that spouse bond that you have, especially when you make God the center of your marriage. And I know I'm getting yelled at for time. We are over time. So I want to read this comment again and see if I can understand it. At home, you don't have an identification to use the toilet. Do your business in an included stall just like that at a fair at your house. Okay, so that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I see where you're going with that. That there's no, there are people trying to say that boys can use girls' stalls if they identify as a girl. Maybe we can solve that problem by just having individual bathrooms, I'm guessing, or individual enclosed stalls so that it's not a problem. I think my biggest concern with that, and yes, I promise you I will try to be done in the next couple minutes, so I'm not keeping you guys too late, so please bear with me. My concern with the bathroom situation is in our schools, if we allow boys and girls to go in the bathrooms together, there's not always an adult in there. There's not always someone watching. There's already a problem with bullying in our schools. There's already a problem with kids getting mistreated in there or getting beat up in there. Imagine if a boy or a older male, or even on the other side, a female or older female had nefarious intentions towards the child, and they're in there with no supervision, and something happens to our kids, that is my biggest concern. I feel like it's just crossing a boundary. Having, yeah, sure, it would be really wonderful if we could just have individual bathrooms where only one person goes in. You don't have to worry about it. But having the combined access is really scary, and I think it's just opening our children up to more predators. Rows of outhouses. Yeah, I see that. That makes sense. Where you have individual outhouses, you don't have to worry because when you're in there by yourself. That makes sense to me. I'm just worried our world today with this whole, I'm going to try to get this word done really quick. I'm sorry, guys. Our world today with this whole do what feels good. If you don't accept me, you're bad. If you don't like it, oh well, it's my truth. It's getting us into a really scary area, and it's opening the door for predators. And the real pandemic, you guys, is human trafficking, sex trafficking, people being sold into slavery. That is a big problem. It happens so rampantly right now, and nobody's talking about it. We're not doing anything about it, and instead, we're allowing more access to predators. We're allowing more opportunities for this to happen, and this is something we really need to fight, y'all. We got to start fighting back because our kids are at stake here. I'm hearing that my little girl, boom, someone said say boom. Our little girl wants to come back on, so I'm going to let her come back in and see what I'm doing. And I apologize in advance if she is yelling and screaming. Let's try not to do that. Come on in, girl. While I finish, why don't you say something to everybody for a minute while I finish this word? I'll show you, and then we'll be done.
Can you ask me a question?
Okay, what do you think about...
Not that.
Well, you got to let me ask the question.
Okay, ask me a million questions before we go.
Riley. Hey, send me a question you want me to ask little Rai. Okay? Let's see. What do we want to ask Riley? What is your favorite thing to do ever?
Oh.
Favorite thing to do? Art, okay. What's your favorite color?
What?
What do you think of Jesus?
He's our savior.
He's our savior, yeah. And what would you do if someone told you that Jesus... Yeah, don't move like that because all the noise comes through the mics and it makes it really hard for anyone to hear you. And you want them to hear you, right? Okay, so what would you do if someone came to you and said, I have a puppy. Do you want to see it?
I come and ask you.
What if they came and said, your mommy sent me to come pick you up today?
I'll say, no, I'm going back to my classroom.
Good girl.
Unless it's someone I know.
Unless it's someone you know really well?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you guys what I got so far. What is your favorite subject at school?
I already told you.
Art. That's what somebody asked you. If everybody just left everybody alone, the entire bathroom thing wouldn't be an issue. Unfortunately, there are bad people out there, and will have taken advantage of bathroom situations.
Daddy sent a question.
That is true. They will, and that's the thing that I'm worried about.
Daddy sent a question. Ask it.
Are you wearing shoes, Riley?
No.
No? Do you like to be barefoot a lot?
Yes.
Okay, let's see if we can show you this. Okay.
Wait, it's not going backwards.
Okay, look. Oh. Now he's moving the camera on me.
Stop doing it!
Okay. So you see what we... Oh my goodness, Joel.
Stop. I
Pick
will
a camera.
And hit you. And I will come and hit.
Stop. You're making this stressful for everybody. Okay. Can you see that? Is that the right? No, that's the right camera. Okay. So, you see how I've got that on cursive. I'm trying to not glare it, and it's just continuously getting glare. Okay. There you go. That's good. Okay, so welcome to our beautiful chaos. Obviously, we're going to really, really, really pretty this up, but you can kind of see what I've got so far. You know, as we do layers and as we do shadowing, it's going to be a lot better. Yes, I still kiss my daughter because she loves it, but you know, it's okay. Anyways, we're gonna be done for the night. Send in your thoughts on this subject. I'd really like to know what everyone thinks because it's really been on my heart. I really do want us to start fighting back. I want us to start fighting for the truth and fighting for our kids. Our kids are the future, and if our future is going the way it is now, I'm scared, you guys. Also, send in what kind of shadows you'd like to see, what colors you'd like to see with this, and if you'd like me to add anything to it with the words. And then we'll add to this one next week, and we will start the other one next week. And we'll see you then. And as always, like like, share, and subscribe. Have a wonderful week. As always, love everybody, and continue to be a positive light in this world when there's so much negativity and hate. Be like this one. Be happy and joyful, and include everyone, love everyone, and fight for the truth. And we'll see you later. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Why do I come up to me at school?